I'm starting to wonder if watching too many camera reviews on YouTube has stolen my joy for photography. I sold my Micro Four Thirds camera because I became convinced that the sensor was holding me back.
Yes, that is a dinky sensor. It is super small.
I'm starting to think that was a huge mistake. I used to be so excited to go out and photograph squirrels and film them in slow motion. But ever since I got the best camera available, the Sony a7 IV, with its 33 megapixels and 4K 120 frames per second with an APS-C crop, I'm just not having as much fun as I used to. I thought that maybe the initial thrill of photography and videography is worn off because it's not quite so new to me anymore, but I started to realize that the joy that I used to have in shooting started to diminish the second that I sold my Micro Four Thirds gear. A couple of years ago, I was happily taking out the Lumix G100 everywhere. I was blissfully ignorant to any disadvantages that the sensor size might have. I used it to make vlogs in the basement opening a time capsule. Yep, and Titanic. The movie Titanic had just come out. Let's see what else we have in here. Some kind of a newspaper. Do you remember when Princess Diana passed away? A family farewell. I took it to all the nature parks, happily filming in 1080, not even caring about 4K. I was just happy to have a little camera that could fit in my purse. Hi, this is April. Welcome back to my channel. We're here at Wolcott Mills Nature Park, testing out the Lumix G100. But then I started to watch YouTube camera reviews, and that's how I came to the realization that my Micro Four Thirds camera doesn't do so good in low light. I wasn't really having too many concerns with my photos or my footage, but I somehow stumbled across a video about the Sony a7S III. Having a full-frame sensor with only 12 megapixels was brilliant for low light. The seeds were planted early. My new goal was to one day have a full-frame camera. But after selling off my Micro Four Thirds gear and investing in a full-frame system, I'm finding that I'm less and less motivated to pick up my camera to shoot. I've realized that the heavier a camera is, the less likely I want to pick it up. And I also realized that the full-frame sensor doesn't automatically do so much better in low light. When I bought my first full-frame camera, the Sony a7 IV, I was under the mistaken idea that I could actually shoot pretty much in the dark, that I didn't need any light at all.
I thought I was gonna laugh with this Sony. I could be indoors, not even need a light, just in my bathroom in the darkness.
That was before I started watching the Marcus Pix channel and realized how important lighting is in photography.
Lighting is more important than the camera.
Imagine my surprise when I was going through some of my museum photos that were taken in pretty low light, and I noticed that some of the Sony a7 IV photos were actually a bit noisier than those taken with the Lumix G9 and the Lumix G100. Even though the Sony had a larger sensor, it was no match for my user error in accidentally leaving my shutter speed set to 1/2000th. This video from the Elusive Frame channel helped me to understand that when we're dealing with low light, we're not talking about no light.
Is Micro Four Thirds bad in low light? Yes. But also, no? What is low light? We usually think about low light as no light at all, but be it a Micro Four Thirds sensor or a full-frame sensor, it can't see in the dark. It's the processing and the computing power of our cameras that allows us to actually see in the dark. And then, are you actually going to photograph no light at all? What's the point of that? When I'm doing street photography at night, there is a lot of missing light, yes, but I'm actually filming people under lamplights or different sources of lights, because if I film them in the dark, no matter how good of a camera I have, it won't see anything. There's no point in that, because photography is shaping light. If there's no light, what are we shaping? The pros among you will probably say, I need a camera that shoots in the dark, but why would you want to photograph something in the dark? If a client pays you, you'll probably bring lights to shape your subject. You wouldn't rely on the ISO of your camera, would you?
One of the other reasons I switched from Micro Four Thirds to full frame is because Jared Pullen said you couldn't get good enough subject separation with Micro Four Thirds. You really couldn't blur out the background enough.
You're not getting the same effect as if you were shooting on a full frame body. The backgrounds become more prevalent. The same thing happens with their 70 to 200 2.8 equivalents. You don't blow the background out as much, and then the images don't look as impressive.
To be honest, I wasn't having much of an issue with this using the Leica 100 to 400mm lens. When I was photographing birds and squirrels with an equivalent of 800mm, my background was getting really blurry. I suppose I can blur out the background more easily with my full-frame camera at shorter focal lengths, but I'm finding a mushy green background to all of my squirrel portraits is getting to be a little uninspiring. When I was watching the Adventure and Art channel, I discovered that there's many professional portrait photographers that actually use Micro Four Thirds.
Is Micro Four Thirds a valid format for portraiture? In today's world of large sensors, large sensor sizes, small, medium formats, 35mm full frame. Why would you bother taking portraits on Micro Four Thirds? Look at this. This is, check this out. There's Jake Anderson. Jake. I gave him this photo to use in his book. He wrote a book, and this photo was displayed on a billboard on like a screen in Times Square. Someone sent me like an iPhone picture of it. That's pretty cool. Like Micro Four Thirds, little Micro Four Thirds on a huge billboard in Times Square. That's rad. I wish I still had that photo of this photo in Times Square.
When I was watching Chris Bateson take some incredible landscape shots using Micro Four Thirds, it reminded me of just how fond I was of the images coming out of the Lumix G100. When I was sharing two photos of the same pond, one taken with the Lumix G100 and another taken with the Sony a7 IV, my friend preferred the one with the Lumix G100. I often share my camera with my brother when we're out at the nature park, and when he was using the Sony a7 V, he remarked about how much he missed using the Lumix G9 and how he had one time gotten such a beautiful photograph of a butterfly. His comment is actually what sent me down memory lane looking through all my old Micro Four Thirds photos. And that's what made me realize there wasn't much of a quality difference between Micro Four Thirds and full frame. One feature I loved using on my Lumix cameras was a creative control mode. It had a filter called one-point color that I learned about from watching a video from Marlene Hillema.
Next on the list is one-point color. So let's go into that one. With one-point color, what you want to do, you definitely want to get into the deep menus with that. So push the symbol here, and at the top you can see that we have an eyedropper. So with the eyedropper, what you're doing is selecting the color that you want. So when we select that green, everything else is monochrome except for the green. So when we take our picture, play it back, just so you can see, everything's monochrome except the color that we chose. And I really had the most fun playing with this filter. Let's do another color. I'll show you what I mean. So eyedropper, let's put the eyedropper on the orange one. Let's go back into this, and you can change some of the saturation of the color that you chose. So now I have some red in this photo and some yellow, and they are part of the orange family, so to speak. So when we take this photo, play that back, you have this photo that only shows the orange coloring. Orange, red, yellow. So basically a little bit of a range. So I really had a lot of fun playing with one-point color. So definitely do some experimenting within that filter.
I had so much fun playing with selective color until I saw Jared Polin on the Northrop's channel saying you really shouldn't be using it.
We got spot color there, Chelsea.
I don't think it works here,
No.
but I like Shawn Mendes.
Black and white.
Oh, Jesus.
Let's just go all black and white. There we go.
Yeah, I hate selective color.
Me
This looks
too.
like it was-
See, I told you we have so much in common, Jared.
Yeah, this is so much better.
All right.
No, I don't do selective color at all. Selective color was awesome in 1912 when they literally went in there and hand painted it with oils. But I find almost no need to do selective color. It's one of those things that we all did when we first started out. I did selective color. I look back at some of the old stuff and I'm like, you suck, sir. You were terrible. Selective color is a gimmick that you do just because you think you're cool, and you're not. And I'm talking about myself right now.
I was cool, but I did try selective color. It was the thing.
I really do think that photograph looked amazing with a touch of blue. I'm starting to wonder that if selective color brought me so much joy, why did I let these YouTube photography experts talk me out of using it? They also talked me out of using Micro Four Thirds. Apparently, my experience with being influenced to buy full frame and being a little underwhelmed by the quality improvement isn't unique. Brian James, that Micro Four Thirds guy, had a similar experience.
I expected a sea change in the quality of my photographs, and instead I hardly got anything noticeable. Most of my photography wasn't pushing the sensor to its limits on its light or its dynamic range. Most of my photography was what most people take. And even then I was working professionally. I was taking portraits, but they were all studio portraits. And I didn't really see much difference in it. And I was disappointed. But then when it came to going to Micro Four Thirds in 2017, or was it 2017 or 18, something like that, down to a 2-to-1 crop ratio. That's a quarter of the sensor size. This is going to be awful. This is going to be atrocious. The noise is going to be horrendous. The dynamic range is going to be 0. And then I got my little EM5 Mark I. And it was brilliant. And I got some awesome photographs out of that. And I didn't miss the big sensor. I certainly didn't miss the bigger size and the bigger weight and the lack of portability compared to Micro Four Thirds' tiny system. And then I realized that the 5D Mark I was actually quite a bit bigger than some of the other cameras, like my GX1. So, sensor size, I felt duped out. I'd spent a lot of money going to bigger and bigger sensors, mainly because the media told me to. I needed to find out the hard way. And I'm still of that opinion today. There are reasons for having bigger sensors, don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing on that. But I'm saying, from me, it was a lesson which was expensive to learn that I, as a normal photographer, didn't need it.
Since the most important part of photography is actually taking your camera out, I'm considering repurchasing a Micro Four Thirds camera. Emily from Micro Four Nerds explained it so well. An everyday carry camera doesn't have to take technically perfect images. It's something that you just have with you all the time.
What I mean is, you don't need anything too complex to add photography into your day-to-day life. And I think there is actually a benefit to having a cheaper camera in day-to-day life. Let me explain. These cameras, particularly the GF series, which are very, very cheap. I don't remember exactly how much I got it for, but it wasn't more than £200. It was very, very cheap. I will take this out anywhere. I will lob it in my bag. I will leave it on the side. I will take it out in drizzle and in rain. I will use it and abuse it. I do think technology is there to be used. When I'm out with the X100 for example, it is on loan. So, obviously I don't want to break it because it's not my property. But even if it was, especially if it was, I wouldn't want to scratch it. It's a luxury high-end camera and I wouldn't want to tarnish it. I feel like I'm wrapping it up in sort of bubble wrap when I'm using it. I took it to a gig, I watched Busted, they were great, and it started raining and I hid the camera underneath my coat and I was afraid of getting it out in case someone spilled a drink on it or something. I don't want to get it scratched. These blooming things, they're already scratched, they're already pre-loved. So if I add another scratch to this, then it's just adding character as far as I'm concerned. I would like my everyday carry to be robust enough that I can use it in all situations, but I don't have to worry about potentially breaking it.
And the idea of having a pink camera makes me so happy. Watching Marcus Picks has actually helped me to stop wanting to chase after camera specs and actually use a camera to tell a story and create some art.
To be successful, you need to understand the difference between nerds and artists. Artists are not afraid to take chances, to try new things, and their main focus is to tell a story, to elicit an emotion. Nerds, on the other hand, focus all their energies on specs and numbers and test charts and whatever is new and complex and expensive. They compare everything and they overanalyze. Artists don't care about any of that. They don't compare themselves or their work with anyone. They don't care how many levels of gray matter are in a micro Jimmy. They can take a piece of garbage and make it look amazing using a 50-year-old camera they bought at a thrift store. And they can tell a story about that piece of garbage that would tear your heart out.
I have the urge to repurchase the Lumix G100 and use 1-point color. Desperately need to bring back some of that joy of photography I used to have in the beginning. If you like this video, give it a like. Consider subscribing for more camera-related content from a newbie like me. God bless.